What up, nerds? In this video, I want to cover how to handle a component-like setup inside of Godot. Now, all a component really is, if you're unfamiliar with it, is an object that encapsulates some kind of functionality that is intended to be reused across multiple unrelated entities. It is a very common design pattern in game engines especially, and popular engines like Unity and Unreal rely on it fairly heavily. So inside of Godot, what we'll end up doing is creating a node, and it can be any node, but most commonly you'll end up using and seeing other people use the base node. Now, once we've created this node, we just need to attach a script to it, and that script is going to contain all of the behavior we want our component to have. In this example scene that I have created, I have this components node that acts as a container for all of my components in my scene. Then when I expand it, I'll have this health component node and this movement component. If we look over the inspector, I've also opted to expose some data to the inspector so I can make it easier to adjust and at design time, as well as make it more reusable. The code itself, if we take a look at it, is honestly nothing too special. Uh, the takeaway isn't how to write a health component, it's the concept of the component itself. But if we take a look at this logic, I can apply this health component in any scene, and really the only thing that I need to wire up is how that scene will respond to a health change event. And this is really part of the strength of components is creating reusable logic to where you don't have to write new code and potentially introduce new bugs, and it's easier to refactor things as well. Inside of Godot with GDScript, I do want to point out that it can be a good idea to use the class name for components, because what that's going to do is take the script and add it to the add node dialog, and it's just going to make it easier to add components. Now, whereas the health component can be used in any scene that I want to include the functionality of health, the movement component isn't as free form, and I did this very intentionally. In this example, I am grabbing the root node, and that's what the owner property is. If you're unaware, the owner property is set for you by the editor when you're adding nodes to the tree, but if you're spawning a node dynamically, you have to set it yourself. And all the owner does is point to the root node of the scene. So I'm grabbing the root node and I'm adjusting the position directly. And this is a big no-no for physics objects, but because this component has the expectation that it's not going to be on a physics object, this is fine. And the reason I did this is to show you that it is fine to design your components this way. It is okay to have constraints on your code. Everything doesn't have to be super generic. So when I run this, we're going to see that the sprite is moving on our screen if you look at the top. And as you'll know, I don't have a script on the player node itself. It's completely driven by the movement component. Now, that pretty much covers how components are typically done in Godot. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below, and I will link a video I did going more in depth about the owner property if you're curious in the description below as well. See you, nerds.